Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Elizabeth Gaines and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Fortescue Metals Group Limited. And it is my absolute honour to welcome you to the 2018 Annual General Meeting of Shareholders. And whilst this is my first AGM as CEO, it's actually my 6th AGM as a member of the Board of Directors. And before I hand over to our Chairman, Andrew Forrest, to commence the formalities, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and to pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our Chairman, Mr. Andrew Forrest.
Well done. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along this morning. I really do appreciate it. We're, I think, privileged to be part of this company. I think we're privileged to even live in Western Australia. I think we're privileged to even live in Australia. This is just such a fantastic part of the world, and it's going to change so much in the next 5 to 30 years. But I'm going to take you through that in a moment. First, I'd like, as you know, you've been introduced to Elizabeth Gaines by Elizabeth. On her left is Mr. Mark Barnaby, who's Deputy Chair of the company, Lead Independent Director and Chair of the Audit and Risk Management Committee. Dr. Jean Bader-Schneider to his left, Mrs. Penelope Bingham-Hall, and Dr. Chow Chi-Kwong from Chairman of Varley. To my right, Miss Sharon Warburton, who is Joint Deputy Chair and Chair of the Remuneration and Nominations Committee. We're welcoming back to the board Lord Sebastian Coe, and then to his right, Miss Jennifer Morris. So welcome, directors, and we're joined this morning by our core leadership team, which is, of course, our Chief Executive, our Deputy Chief Executive, who I'd like to stand, please, Mrs. Julie Shuttleworth. Our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Greg Lillyman, and our Chief Financial Officer, the bloke with the chequebook, Mr. Ian Wells. And we have his senior members of our executive, as well as our Company Secretary, Cameron Wilson. But we're also honoured, I think, to have a man who did a fantastic job at the helm for nearly 7 years, and our former Chief Executive, Mr. Nev Power. So, vested interest, Nev's still a big shareholder, so comes along to crack the whip like we've been cracking on him. Anyway, so there are no apologies, and the minutes of the last board meeting, of the last AGM rather, have been approved by the board. I've got a signed copy, and we're taking the notice of the AGM as read. So today's agenda will be a presentation from Elizabeth as your Chief Executive. I'll follow her, I always do, and then general business of the day, which is the formalities, the part I just love most. So, no further ado, Elizabeth Gaines.
Thank you, Andrew. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege today to take you through what has been a milestone year for Fortescue. And Fortescue has been on an incredible journey, and it's the sheer determination of the Fortescue family that has seen us become the true Australian success story we are today. And in April this year, we celebrated 10 years since we first shipped ore to China, and we also recognised this year the billionth tonne of ore shipped, which sailed to China aboard Fortescue's ore carrier, FMG Sophia. And we achieved these milestones in true Fortescue fashion, taking only 10 years to achieve what others took decades to do. And in July, we also marked the 15 years since Andrew was elected chairman of the newly named Fortescue Metals Group. And that marked the start of Andrew's visionary journey to create an Australian-owned iron ore company comparable in size to the global iron ore majors. And today we're really pleased to launch our new corporate video that recognises these milestones. And this is a video that's a snapshot of who we are, of our unique culture and our world-class assets. So I invite you to take a journey with Fortescue.
best part of any journey
is knowing how far you've travelled
where you are going,
and the people that join you along the way. Our journey is with Fortescue.
At Fortescue, we're helping build the world and ensuring it prospers for the future. We're committed to our customers' needs today and tomorrow. This is where you'll find us. The Pilbara in Western Australia, our home since 2003, and the prime location for iron ore across the globe. It all starts here. From world-leading assets and infrastructure owned and operated by us, shipping iron ore to global markets. Our continual focus is on being the safest, lowest cost, most profitable mining company. For us, safety comes first in everything we do. We value what matters. Empowering our people, looking out for our mates. The best ideas come from a diverse workforce. It's why we invest in training and employment, creating economic opportunities, empowering generational change for Aboriginal Australians. We are committed to partnering with traditional custodians, safeguarding the environment and cultural heritage now and for the future. We've set bold targets and achieved them. We never, ever give up. Embracing innovation and new ideas, creating value for our shareholders and key stakeholders. We are proud contributors to local and global economic development, supporting initiatives that address society's most complex issues, exploring new opportunities for growth. We are building a stronger future both here in Australia and overseas.
Take the journey
with our family.
Fortescue, we're a global force.
The health, safety and wellbeing of the Fortescue family is our number one priority, and our focus remains on ensuring that our people go home safely after every single shift. And whilst over the last 5 years our total recordable injury frequency rate has reduced by 38%, our safety performance still isn't where we want it to be. And we continue to implement initiatives that encompass all of our operations as we focus on improving our safety performance. And during this year, we saw an increase in low-severity injuries, so we conducted a company-wide safety stop. And that involved about 5,000 team members across the whole company, and that was an important opportunity to reset our commitment to the safety of our people and engage with them in identifying opportunities to continue to improve our safety performance. And we view this as an important investment in our culture. And it's just one example of a range of initiatives across the business focused on safety. And importantly, in our annual safety and culture survey, we had a 94% participation rate. And I think many of you would agree that if you conduct a wide survey and you get 60% participation, that would be a good outcome. So we're very pleased to have a 94% participation rate. But importantly for us, that demonstrates the Fortescue team's commitment to becoming a global leader in safety and our strong culture of engagement and empowerment. And from the very outset, it was Andrew's vision to ensure the communities in which Fortescue operates benefits from our growth and our success. And we are proud to be one of Australia's largest employers of Aboriginal people, with over 1,160 Aboriginal people employed across your business. And our commitment includes creating economic opportunities for Aboriginal people through the provision of training, and we do that through vocational training for guaranteed jobs, through employment, and through business development opportunities. And I know that I'm personally touched by the many people I've met on our sites whose lives have been changed because they've been provided the opportunity for a job in our sector. And today we are delighted to welcome the 2019 participants of our Leadership Excellence in Aboriginal People, or our LEAP program. They're here with us today. And this is... Thank you. This is the largest intake we've had since the initiative began in 2015, and it's an example of our commitment to support that next generation of Aboriginal leaders at Fortescue and in the community more broadly. And earlier this year, we were pleased to recognise a very important milestone, which was the awarding of $2 billion of contracts to Aboriginal-owned businesses and joint venture partners. And our original goal was $1 billion, and today we've truly exceeded this target. And in fact, your Billion Opportunities program has now gone on to be the blueprint for the federal government's Indigenous procurement policy. And we've backed this up with a finance facility for small businesses in partnership with ANZ, and it's guaranteed by Fortescue. And the purpose of that facility is to ensure the long-term sustainability of these regional businesses. So we are about providing a hand up and not a handout, and we are driving real economic and generational change in our communities. Fortescue also seeks to empower communities by developing partnerships to deliver strategic and meaningful outcomes that are very practical in nature and generate value. And we're very proud to partner with Hockey Australia to deliver the National Indigenous Hockey Program, with Ronald McDonald House to provide emergency accommodation to regional families with children needing medical treatment here in Perth, with Headland Senior High School to provide operational funding to the Trade Training Centre, and that ensures that students have a pathway to employment in the mining industry and importantly in their hometown. And we also partnered with Willamara Yinjabandi Aboriginal Corporation to support Big Heart, which delivers an Aboriginal youth workshop program aimed at children living in Roebourne. Fortescue is committed to diversity. However, we can't afford to be complacent, and diversity is important to all of us, and we know there's evidence that demonstrates that diversity drives better financial outcomes. And at Fortescue, diversity is broader than gender, and we embrace diversity in all its forms. And in our sector and more broadly, there is room in corporate Australia for further improvement. At Fortescue, 24% of our management team is female, and I'm personally very proud to stand before you today with Sharon, Jean, Penny and Jen as one of only 2 major listed companies in Australia with greater than 50% female board members. And I have to say that that's a strong demonstration of Andrew's commitment to diversity. Female employees make up 17.4% across the business, and we are working to grow that number, and we really focus again on those practical measures that make a difference to women at work. They include job sharing, flexibility, we have a 24-hour Fortescue family room here in Perth, and we have an inclusive workplace. And on a personal level, I am focused on creating an environment where there is equal representation across a diverse group of people, and that's regardless of gender or ethnicity. I was born in the Kimberley, and so the environment of the North and Northwest Australia is a particularly special place for me, and I am proud of Fortescue's commitment to protect the environment for future generations. And through our years of experience and innovative approach to water management, we have developed industry-leading capability, which is fundamental to the sustainability of Fortescue's operations, and importantly to the sustainability of the environment and to our local communities. Climate change remains one of the most challenging issues facing the world, and we believe that business, government and the community must work together to address this complex issue. And as a business, we are working to ensure our resilience and that we make the most of the advancement of technology, including the integration of renewable energy. And we understand there's growing stakeholder interest in this issue, and this year we have commenced the process to expand our disclosure in line with the recommendations of the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. So turning now to results for our financial year 18. And those results continued to demonstrate our strong production and our cost performance across all of our operations, as well as our commitment to delivering on our targets. That strong operational performance is continuing to generate excellent cash flows, which has strengthened our balance sheet and has delivered long-term value to you, our shareholders. Our financial year 18 finished with an outstanding performance across all of our operations, delivering record shipments of 46.5 million tonnes in the June quarter, and ultimately achieving our target of 170 million tonnes of iron ore shipped for the full year. Our C1 cost for the year was an industry-leading and a record low of $12.36 per wet metric tonne, and that continued that consistent year-on-year improvement in our cost performance. And in financial year 18, we reduced our net gearing to 24%, and importantly, we increased the dividend payout ratio to 62% of net profit after tax. And we are very focused on ensuring that our ongoing C1 cost achievements are sustainable, and that's through a number of initiatives, including our approach to adopting autonomy. And I've worked in a number of industries, and I can reliably state that Fortescue's approach to innovation is unique. And innovation at Fortescue, it's not just about technology in our equipment or our processing systems, but it's the way we develop new ideas and how we maximise that diversity we have across our business to continue to drive our performance. Fortescue was the first company in the world to deploy CAT autonomous haulage on a commercial scale at our Solomon operation, and it's proven to be extremely successful and a significant contributor to our cost performance. So following the success of the autonomous haulage at Solomon, we made the decision to convert our manned haulage fleet at the Chichesters to autonomy, and we're currently working through that conversion process. Once that's implemented, Fortescue will be the only iron ore operation in the world to have a fully autonomous haulage fleet. And there are many other opportunities for innovation and automation across the business. That includes the relocatable conveyor at Cloudbreak, as well as our remote integrated operations centre here in Perth. And we're often asked about the impact on people, and it is fair to say that some people do find automation challenging or threatening. So managing change and the impact of automation on our people has been crucial to the project's success. And at Fortescue, our approach to autonomy is to be open and transparent with our plans and to work closely with our team members to offer opportunities for retraining and redeployment to ensure that Fortescue remains relevant and transformational. This leads to higher skilled workers, leads to better jobs and ultimately more rewarding careers. So in our financial year 2018, we saw the progression of our debt refinance and repayment strategy. We've now reduced our debt substantially, we've lowered our cost of capital and we've increased our flexibility. And the successful execution of this strategy marked a turning point for free cash flow allocation. And last year was the first year with more free cash flow allocated to dividends than to debt. And last month we announced a $500 million on-market share buyback program. And this is a natural expansion of our capital allocation focus, and it's now part of our capital management strategy. So our share buyback is consistent with our debt buyback strategy in 2015, and at that time we capitalised on the opportunity to buy back debt when it was trading below par. And that debt refinancing strategy, together with our current share buyback program, demonstrates the flexibility of our strong cash flows, and they provide us that agility to act quickly and take advantage of market dynamics. I joined Fortescue's board in February 2013. We were ramping up to 155 million tonnes with the addition of the low-cost Solomon operation. And 5 years later, it's very exciting to be part of our next phase of growth. The $1.275 billion Eliwana mine and rail development is a significant long-term investment for Fortescue, and it underpins the introduction and longer-term supply of our new West Pilbara Fines product. First ore from Eliwana will be shipped in December 2020, and the Eliwana mine will include 143 kilometres of rail and a 30 million tonne dry ore processing facility. This development will maintain Fortescue's cost leadership position, and importantly, it provides us with flexibility to meet market requirements while maintaining mine lives. And production of our new 60.1% iron grade product, West Pilbara Fines, will commence in December this year. And we'll do this by blending ore from our Firetail mine with higher iron content ore from newly developed areas to the west of the Cloudbreak mine. And most importantly, this allows us to introduce this new product at volumes in the range of between 10 to 20 million tonnes per annum as we ramp up the Eliwana start of production at the end of 2020. Volumes will grow to 40 million tonnes per annum and will consistently deliver at that volume for 20 years or more from completion of the Eliwana mine. Greg Lilliman and I were in China in September for the China Iron and Steel Association conference, where we received positive customer feedback on West Pilbara Fines. And from our discussions with customers, we know that this product will be very well received in the market. China's economic development over the last 40 years has been nothing short of remarkable, as the country's industrialisation and urbanisation has driven strong demand for iron ore to produce steel. And earlier this month, we attended the China International Import Expo, and on the sidelines of this international event, we signed 8 MOUs with major Chinese steel mills, reaffirming our commitment to our customers and demonstrating our significant market presence in China. We're confident in the growth prospects and long-term fundamentals of the Chinese market as steel production continues to grow year on year. And in October, the month just passed, annualised steel production approached nearly 1 billion tonnes, and steel stocks are not increasing, so that steel is being consumed. So there's strong demand for steel in China, and that's driving demand for iron ore. But our market focus is also on continuing to deliver products that meet our customer needs, while at the same time developing opportunities in new markets. And our non-China sales last year doubled compared to the previous year, and they grew to 13 million tonnes. And non-China markets accounted for 10% of total shipments during the September quarter just gone. And it is interesting to note that India has overtaken the US to become the 3rd largest producer of steel and is on track to overtake Japan to become the 2nd largest producer. So our proximity to developing and emerging Asian economies provides opportunities for Fortescue and for further diversification. And so just touching now on this financial year, and as we look ahead, our guidance for this year is shipments in the range of 165 to 173 million tonnes, C1 costs in the range of $12 to $13, total capital expenditure of $1.2 billion, and our policy on dividends remains to pay out in the range of 50 to 80% of net profit after tax. And our future is driven by 4 key priorities. We remain committed to ensuring balance sheet strength and flexibility, to investing in the core long-term sustainability of the business while pursuing growth and development options, and importantly, delivering returns to you, our shareholders. Our exploration expenditure is increasing, with growth and development options for the future underway in the Pilbara, in New South Wales and in South America. And we continue to assess exploration and development opportunities throughout South America, including Ecuador, Colombia and Argentina, and we're just waiting on approvals to commence drilling on concessions held in the Santa Ana region of Ecuador. We're improving productivity and efficiency and embracing innovation across every area of our business to realise sustainable cost reductions. And we remain very focused on ensuring communities continue to benefit from our growth and our development as we empower and partner with them to build capability, to build capacity, and importantly, to protect the environment. So crucially, our future success will be underpinned by Fortescue's unique culture and values. And our culture and values were created by Andrew. They were championed by Nev, and it is my and the core leadership's team responsibility and our huge privilege to continue that legacy. And together, the core leadership team is committed to leading Fortescue through its next phase by empowering and encouraging our people to generate those new ideas and, really importantly, have the courage to implement them. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was a really great initial AGM speech. Thank you, Elizabeth. I thought it was first class. I would like to also take you on a little journey if I could, but first recognise that old digger who was with me at the very start of this company, my brother David, Mr. Graham Rowley. Thank you very much for coming. No doubt about my dad. He's here with both my mum and my stepmum, either side. But for them. But I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, that we have a situation now of incredible opportunity and challenge. The world in the next 5 to 30 years is going to change more, I think, than it has in the last 150 years. We have breaking upon us new forms of energy, and Fortescue will participate in that. We have breaking upon us autonomy, from little taxis to huge trucks, and Fortescue, right now the largest commercial operator of autonomy in the world. will also participate in that strongly. And we have probably the greatest of these industrial revolutions, because that's what they'll amount to, is artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence you can think of as a bit like the steam engine. No one took a lot of notice of the invention of the steam engine until it was put into a train. And all of a sudden, it changed the world. Artificial intelligence will shortly surpass human intelligence, and by many factors. If you get recursive or highly repetitive ability for a machine intelligence to continuously improve itself, then it will surpass human intelligence within decades, if not years. We, all of us, human beings, we have DNA, around 3 billion bits of nucleic acid, which are little yes-no switches, of which we use around 100 million. So a fraction. It equals about 50 novels. That's it. We improve our DNA, you can measure this over recorded history of the last 10,000 years, we improve our DNA around 1 information bit per annum. It used to be per million, and before that per 100 million years. So we're evolving quickly as a species. But artificial intelligence in machines can improve their intelligence at several thousand bits per second. So, the world will change massively. It will be our challenge to make sure we engage with this industrial revolution. It will completely change what we see at Fortescue. Remind everyone where autonomy and artificial intelligence is breaking around the world, you have full employment. There's structural change, but then you move back to a much higher standard of living and much higher levels of employment. So it is not to be feared, it is to be engaged. But it really must be engaged the right way. Artificial intelligence in the wrong hands could be really dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. If you think of ourselves as wanting to, say, build a piece of infrastructure, and while all of us probably aren't deliberate ant haters, if there's an ant hill which is in the road of a piece of infrastructure like a railway line, well, it's probably going to be bad luck for those insects. We want to make sure that we don't put humankind in the same position as those insects. That's the level of change which I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the level of change which I can see happening. And when I say that Fortescue will embrace artificial intelligence, it will embrace autonomy, and it will embrace new energy, I'm really serious about that. I'm more excited about this company's future, about the developments it's got underway, its ability to use data and digital management to really, really ramp up the skill base to which it markets its products, to which it mines its ore bodies, to how well we can treat our shareholders and treat our people. It's all going to change and it's all going to improve, thanks to autonomy, AI, new energy. And we must really, I think, embrace that future. We must not be scared of it, but we must make sure that we manage it. It doesn't manage us. So, if I could just take you to the past for a second. Elizabeth spoke very well about this, I thought. You know, a decade ago, we loaded a 180,000-tonne ship, and now we're shipping on our own major fleet, the first Australian major shipping line to be owned by Aussies in the last quarter of a century. I think that we have all much to be proud of in this little company since 2003. We've got truly global scale operations, and it started as a little exploration company, which my brother David will remember well, out at Mount Nicholas. And it went on now to exploration programs in Argentina, in Ecuador, and Colombia, and all through Australia. But never losing our core values, ladies and gentlemen, and keeping very close to our customers all the time. If I could take you to what I see as a really exciting future with a core leadership team. And this core leadership team I have introduced. It is moving away from the model which every company uses, which is to have a chief executive and a board and then everybody else. Fortescue is working hard, and we occasionally often forget as your leaders, but we're working hard to transform ourselves as leaders into advisors, not into authoritarian figures, so that those people who report to us, they make the decisions. They call the shots. They take the responsibility, and then they take the credit. They come to us for advice. They don't come to us for authority. It's breaking the mould completely in terms of industrial major operational management and corporate management. But it will bring the best out of our people, and it will bring the best out of your organisation. We also are very strict followers of governance. We ensure that we protect our shareholders, our stakeholders, at all times in everything we do. We are very pleased to also say that the constant refreshing, which is Fortescue, remember, ladies and gentlemen, there can be no improvement without change. Change is absolutely necessary. It must happen all across this company. It must happen rapidly. And it's also happening on this board of directors. And I'm very pleased to welcome back Lord Sebastian Coe. And maybe Seb, a little bit out of order, but why don't we ask you to take the podium and speak about you. Then I'll introduce Dr. Chang, and then maybe have Jean also have a few words, and then we'll just rattle through the votes at the end. Seb.
Andrew, thank you. The lovely thing about working with you again is you should never be shocked by his innovation and creativity. That was due to happen about 20 minutes into the schedule this morning, and I was still scribbling the few thoughts that I had for you. But first of all, thank you very much for the invitation, Andrew, to rejoin the board. A little bit more about that in a moment. I'm delighted to be here. My last public engagement was to a group of Scottish Conservatives, and I have to tell you, it's very nice to have an audience this morning. For those of you of a more mature vintage, you may remember that I was a track and field athlete, or as my kids now refer to it, as a washed-up pavement pounder. I ran in 2 Olympic Games, 1980 and 1984, broke 11 world records, and 3 of them were in 41 days, and the only reason I raise that is because I also, at that moment, graduated in economics and in finance, which I have used sporadically throughout the remainder of my career. I retired in 1990. I then became a Conservative Member of Parliament. Please don't hold that against me. And I then became, for an even shorter period of time, a government minister, with responsibility in health and also as a government whip. When I left politics, which is a charitable way of saying when politics left me in a very big way in 1997, I became Chief of Staff in the Conservative Party, and in 2003 got asked by the Prime Minister to head up the bid for the London Olympics in 2003, 4 and 5. We won the right to stage the games. That took me through to sort of 2013. But in 2003, I was asked by this man to join a board for Fortescue. And really, I guess for the first year, Andrew, we went around with a briefcase and a lot of hope, and it was that dare to dream moment where we sat down with investors. Sadly, I had to step down quite soon afterwards because I was asked to do the bid and time and all those constraints. But I've watched in awe, no pun intended, since the creation of the business and where it has got to today. Andrew talked just for a few moments ago about the dare. Well, I talked about the dare to dream moment. Andrew talked a little bit about the future. I was brought up in the People's Republic of South Yorkshire in Sheffield, which for those of you who know the area will know that it is steeped in mining and steel. 7 out of 10 kids that I went to school with were in the mining community. As a Member of Parliament, I represented the only constituency in the United Kingdom that had a remaining tin mine. I understand the nature of the importance of mining in a community. I don't think that any community is so defined than by its activity around mining. I know that it is an ecosystem that is far more important than just the technological ability to get stuff out of the ground. But the most exciting element in this business is not just returning to something that has grown into a wonderful values-based business. It is the way that the whole board see the future. And that is why I'm excited to be here. And having understood the nature of pulling together probably one of the most complicated pieces of project management known to man, the Olympic Games in 7 years in London, and it was that good because we nicked so many of your former Sydney-siders who created such a wonderful games in 2000. I also am looking forward to the onward development and onward growth of this business. Be brave, be bold, be creative. That is the mantra on this board. You are here because of that, and we're here, Andrew, to support you and Elizabeth in everything that you're achieving and wanting to do. So I'm delighted to stand before you to seek election again to this board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Seb. Could I now invite up Dr. Chachi Chong, please, to just come and introduce yourself. Thank you. Can we switch on the mic?
Dear honored Chairman Andrew, dear directors and shareholders, good morning.
我是曹志强，是湖南华宁钢铁集团的董事长，也是中国钢铁工业协会的副会长。很荣幸这一次成为 FMG 提名的非执行董事。
My name is Chao Zhiqiang, now is acting as the chairman of Hunan Valley Steel Company Limited, the deputy director of China Iron and Steel Industry Association. Today, I'm very pleased to be nominated as the non-executive director of Fortescue Metals Limited.
华宁集团是中国第7大钢铁集团，目前年产钢的话呢，超过2300万吨钢。目前华宁每年稳定的使用 FMG 的矿超过600万吨，成为了中国乃至全球成功使用 FMG 矿的典范。
Welling Group is the 7th largest steel enterprise in China, which output of production has reached 23 million tons. At present, over 6 million tons of Fortescue iron ores has been used in Welling every year, and it has already been the successful symbol of applications in China, even in global market.
随着 FMG 公司进一步的扩大产能、调整结构、提升品质 ，FMG 公司的产品在中国和全球将具有更广阔的市场前景。
With the further improvement of capability and adjusting its structure, I'm very confident in the Fortescue products will have more broader prospects in the world.
过去我一直从事钢铁材料的研发钢铁工业发展的研究和中国宏观经济的研究。今后我将把自己对钢铁行业的理解和经济全球化的认识带到董事会，为 FMG 的长远发展贡献自己的一份力量。谢谢大家。
In the past, I have been dealing with the development and the research in steel materials, as well as the growth direction of steel industry and the Chinese macroeconomy. In the future, I will bring more knowledge to the board in terms of understanding to steel industry development and the perspectives to be economical globalization and contribute my active role in the board. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And if I can invite up Dr. Jean Bader-Schneider.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see all of you, especially the LEAP folks. It's always a pleasure to get here in the morning and see you. I am very honored today to stand for re-election to the Fortescue board, and I'm also honored to be a shareholder like all of you here today. And like you, I am a shareholder because Fortescue is more than a successful company. It's an inventive, great company with focus on performance, innovation, and making a contribution. Coming from ExxonMobil with 35 years of experience, and as I told everyone yesterday, I started at 2 and went from there, and running a large global operation, I've had the chance to work with thousands of companies in virtually every region of the world, and in fact in most countries. And it was obvious that successful companies share a number of attributes. First, operational integrity. That means a clear and unwavering focus on safety, strong financial management, and the environment. 2, operational efficiency and effectiveness. Successful companies constantly work to achieve lowest cost operations while also ensuring world-class production and world-class profitability. And 3, a culture of performance and people focus. Successful companies reward performance, treat people fairly, and take care of them as family. Virtually every successful company in the world, regardless of where you are, shares these traits. But then there are those few companies that rise up above all the rest, and I put Fortescue in that category, who push the envelope and constantly create new value, generate new value. And here's the difference. A truly great company has 2 things, I believe. First, guts and courage to take on the toughest challenge and take risk. And 2, has laser-like focus on taking innovative ideas and actually getting them on the ground through vigorous execution ahead of everyone and better than anyone. You saw some examples of those things in Elizabeth's video. This courage and vigorous execution will continue to create value for all of us shareholders here today, employees here today, and for the industry and for this great country. As shareholders, we should be proud that this value is also being put to use for world-class philanthropic work, like minor issues, curing cancer, human trafficking, modern-day slavery, early childhood development, just to name a few. So courage to take on the toughest challenges and getting things done starts with the Forrest family, who are here today, and extends to the culture of Fortescue, making it not just a successful company, but one of the few at the top, an inventive, world-class organization leading the way. Thank you for your support. It's great to be here.
So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll do the formal introductions as we go through the mechanics of the AGM. But just to continue on, we had 2 other board changes. Sharon Warburton joined as Deputy Chair and Head of the Remuneration Nominations Committee, and Mark Barnaba AM also joined as Co-Deputy Chair and Head of the Audit and Risk Committee. So let me just say, we have a number of projects. You've seen one coming out of the ground, the Eliwana project. We're working very hard on the Iron Bridge project as well, and seeing how much we can enhance those numbers and eliminate the risk which goes with magnetite projects. There's a number of other explorations underway, and I think that the ground we have in Ecuador is truly exciting, as is our exploration targets in Argentina. We had one of our very early and major geologists who was head of exploration here for many, many years, Eamon Hannon, head to Argentina, hasn't even been to Ecuador yet, and he just rang us up this morning and said, mate, I haven't seen elephant country like this for decades. So I'm of course, very pleased about that. So we also, wherever we go in the world, be it in Ecuador or Colombia or the Roban community, we try in every example we ever take in how we live and how we grow to integrate ourselves into the community and bring the community along with us. And I feel that is an extremely important part of the organisation as well. If I could take you to, sorry, am I doing this wrong? If I could take you to Dr. Betty Schneider kindly mentioned this, but where the Minderoo organisation, funded in a significant measure by the dividends of Fortescue Metals Group, has now gone over $860 million in giving and will continue to rise from here. I think that Fortescue is fantastic in the ethics and in the example and in the integration within community in every breath that it takes, not just making a quid, but it also empowers the livelihoods of tens of thousands of people and of major philanthropic organisations. So if I might just show you that for a second. Are we going to play a video here, team?
Minderoo's 2018 was a journey that defied the odds. This year we took the fight against modern slavery global at the UN at Chogum, Nusa Dua and Medellin. We brought survivors of slavery together with government, business and religious leaders to fight a scourge that affects 40 million people. At the House of Commons, we answered the call of Baroness Tessa Jowell and launched the Universal Cancer Databank.
The world's first cancer database that can be freely accessed by researchers across the globe has been launched.
I feel very strongly that terrifying disease, cancer, which touches 1 in 2 people across the world, that is actually standing on the edge of its own extinction. If we can supply data to researchers, let's give them the data, let's give them a crack.
We took this vision to China, the US and around the world, translating the call of patients to donate their data into a movement for change. We picked up the fight against nicotine products and built the alliances and evidence to prevent another generation of addiction and early death. We invested in youth through our commitment to education and research, and opened Forest Hall to encourage a hub for innovation in Western Australia. Out on the high seas, we explored our rugged coastline to unlock the secrets of our ocean ecology and ensure flourishing oceans for future generations. We took vocational training into our prison system to hold out the light of opportunity and hope to those who need it most. And we celebrated stories from our history that show the life-changing power of opportunity.
When a vulnerable person is given an opportunity in life, it can actually change the course of their life, and that's what I feel has happened in my life. It was a crucial point when I really need someone to help me out and give me a chance, and that's what I got when I started VTech.
We made early childhood development and the miracle of a baby's developing brain the focus of a new campaign and a new long-term initiative with government.
Meaningful moments, early and often, build young brains. Bright tomorrows start today.
We ensured the stories that bind us together through theatre and the arts remain strong and vibrant with our ongoing commitment to support local cultural institutions. This was our year, and Minderoo thanks you for the opportunity to collaborate with you on this journey.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I can say, ladies and gentlemen, like Fortescue itself, that philanthropic work is just beginning. We've only just begun to fight there as well. Look, and just in closing, before we move to the formalities, I'd really like to thank our shareholders. You're doing a spectacular job in your support of us. I think that the share price is yet to fully appreciate, or other investors, particularly Australian institutions, are just coming around to the fact that Fortescue isn't a one-shot-in-the-barrel wonder. It is a systemic growth company which will match the utopia which all investors look for, which is high capital growth and high dividend policies. And that's what I'm pleased to say our core leadership team is completely focused on and is delivering on, just like Nev and the CEO before him, whoever that bloke was. I'd like to just move, if I could, to the formalities now. Everyone knows how much I like this part. To streamline this meeting, we're going to have the details of the resolutions and the proxy votes for each resolution displayed on the screens behind me, and that'll save you laboriously having to listen to me drone on reading them out. Shareholders and their proxies, corporate representatives will also be given the opportunity to ask questions relevant to the business of today's meeting prior to each resolution being considered. If you do have a question, please raise your white or blue admission card, which you received at registration, and state your name prior to addressing the meeting. And please note, if you have a red or green card, you can't speak. So, bad luck, borrow a blue card. So in accordance with the company's constitution and the voting procedures, and with the Chair's discretion, I advise that we'll hold a poll in relation to Resolution 1 to 6 inclusive. I'll now hand over to our Company Secretary, Cameron, to explain the procedures. Cameron.
Thanks, Andrew. As the Chairman advised, we'll be conducting a poll today. And in that regard, I appoint Mr. Chris Hernandez from the company's share registry Link to conduct the poll. Now, in terms of the procedure, the persons entitled to vote on this poll are all shareholders, representatives and attorneys of shareholders, and proxy holders who hold white voting cards. On this card, which is displayed on the screen, you will see or find a series of boxes for voting. Please indicate on your card how you wish to vote by ticking or marking the separate square for each resolution. You must mark either the for or against box for your vote to count. Once you've finished marking your card, please place it in one of the ballot boxes, which will circulate the room after all the resolutions are read. We are also pleased to offer shareholders who are attending the meeting in person here today to lodge their vote using their mobile phone or tablet device. Shareholders who are using the Link Vote app to lodge their votes electronically, please follow the prompts on your device to lodge your vote. If you have any questions about how to use the Link Vote app during the meeting, please speak with one of the Link staff who are located in the share registration area. If there are any aspects regarding the voting on which you are uncertain, please do not hesitate to ask the Link staff, who will be circulating the room with the ballot boxes after all the resolutions are read. The Chairman will close the meeting following the collection of all the poll papers. The results of the poll will then be advised to the ASX later on today. I'll now hand back to the Chairman for the first item of business. Andrew.
Thank you, Cameron. All right. Let's rock and roll. The first business item is the receiving of the financial reports. Details are up on the screen. Are there any questions relating to the reports, including questions of the company's auditor, PricewaterhouseCoopers, represented by Mr. Justin Carroll? Questions from floor? Sir, even got the right card.
So based on our annual report and company filings, it is clear that Fortescue accepts the scientific consensus as assessed by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, and supports the Paris Agreement goal of limiting global temperature rise to less than 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels. Is our current business strategy aligned to a particular energy outlook for global or national energy projections and analysis? If so, which outlook and what policy scenario does it consider?
Okay, so you can just go to the core of our investment policy. We too, like many other companies, have been offered dripping roast financial returns in the form of thermal coal, and we haven't taken them. We see coal as very much last century, and we're working very hard on what I called new energy, and I look forward to making announcements about that in the future. But we understand climate change very much. I'm hugely concerned about ocean deoxygenation myself, and we'll be doing everything we can as a company to slow down climate change.
Is there any particular energy projection that the company follows?
Elizabeth, do you want to answer that?
Chairman, I think we're a large energy user, so our focus has been on adopting, where we can, renewable energy, and we're very focused on that because as a large energy user, obviously that's a large cost. We have actually we converted the Solomon Power Station to gas, and we're a user of the Fortescue River gas pipeline. So where we can, we're looking at opportunities for the use of renewables, and as Andrew said, we're very committed to that and to advancements in technology around energy.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, I propose we take the report as read. Adoption of the remuneration report. Some more. Rock and roll.
A jolly good morning, Mr. Chairman, board, attendees today. Len Roy from the Australian Shareholders Association. It's a privilege to be a company monitor with Fortescue, I might say. We acknowledge that financial year 18 was a tough year, a challenging year, not only for Fortescue, but for those in the global iron ore market. The commodity price was something you didn't control, but you certainly took it on board and successfully managed the company, notwithstanding that tough year where your commodity prices were low. We would like to acknowledge some points in the financials. We look at financials, we look at remuneration, we look at governance, and I think some of the positives that came out from a shareholder perspective on the financials. You had the C1 costs, which you've been focusing on for a long time, and surprisingly, you've again lowered them, and full marks for that achievement. The refinancing and repayment situation with that $2.16 billion was a very, very clever, very special accomplishment and significantly lowered the capital costs for Fortescue. Must have been a very, very interesting exercise to go through. On debt reduction, you're renowned for debt reduction. We've heard it so often, but you keep doing it, and you keep succeeding in dropping that Fortescue debt to a more acceptable level. And it's interesting that you've now got a situation where the earliest debt maturity is 2022, and full marks in that regard. As shareholders, we like dividends, and we like the dividends to go up. In this instance, you reduced the dividends, and it might seem strange to some people in the audience, but we take the responsible view that when circumstances are as they are today financially, it's prudent to reduce the dividend. You're looking long-term, not short-term, and that's how we as ASA look at it as well. So we think you took a prudent decision in that regard. And then finally, on the buyback intention of up to 500 million over the next, I think, 11 months or so, a very commendable thing from a shareholder perspective. Mr. Chairman, I just had two other quick points while I'm on my feet, and then that's that. One is the board, the governance, the diversity, the talent on the board is quite exceptional. And I'm not trying to be a friend of the board, but in reality, if you step back and look at the qualifications, the experience, the background of the people, it's a very, very powerful board, and we acknowledge that. And the governance level to us, from a shareholder perspective, seems to be incredibly high, and full marks on that front. Secondly, we work with companies, or we try to work with companies in a collaborative way. when it comes to remuneration, and I realise that's not the resolution, but and I'd just like to acknowledge that Fortescue is one of the companies and one of the growing companies that are appreciative of a collaborative approach instead of us being a policeman or on the corner having a go, so to speak. We've matured, and long term, I think having had discussions with your chairperson of remuneration and the cooperative way that Fortescue is working with us, we give also an appreciation in that regard. So all the resolutions today we are supporting in this notice of meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sir.
Thank you. At last year's AGM, the board could not provide a clear timeline for implementing the final recommendations of the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD. This year, the report states that scenario analysis will evolve over the coming years. Can the board clarify when shareholders and investors will be provided with complete disclosure against TCFD recommendations that include a detailed analysis of how the company performs under various climate policy scenarios, including one in which global warming is held to under 1.5 degrees centigrade? Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chairman. So yes, we have improved our disclosure and we are very focused on that disclosure. I won't sit here right now and give you an absolute timeline, because what we're finding is that the science around this and the measurements are evolving, and we're evolving with it. But our commitment is to make sure that we do disclose and that we continue to improve our disclosure in this area.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. Any others? Normally, when you're a chairman and someone from a shareholder association stands up, you think you're going to be like a school kid sent down the corridor to be sat under the clock and perhaps get the cuts in the old days. But I'd say Ian Wells, CFO, you and your team should be very proud of those remarks. So we'll take that report as read. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. Adoption of the remuneration report. Details of the resolutions are on your screen. Before we open for questions, I'd just like to make a couple of introductory remarks on behalf of the board. Our strategy is designed to strengthen the performance-orientated culture by attracting and retaining the best people. The strength of our values is very much underpinning our culture, who we are and how we operate wherever we are in the world. It's a core contributor to our success, ladies and gentlemen. I just can't stress it more highly. For executives and senior staff, this includes a high proportion of their remuneration to be at risk against the performance of the company and their own tasks to really drive shareholder returns. And at its core, this strategy drives management accountability for the achievement of stretch targets. It's a favourite of ours to set totally unrealistic targets and then completely go for them. And I look at the core leadership team with some small sympathy, but then again, Ned's sitting next to them, he's got no sympathy for them at all. So the outcomes are really consistent with those statements, ladies and gentlemen. For full year 18, really significant progress on our business strategy, 170 million tonnes shipped from world-class assets. A continued cost reduction, as the gentleman kindly noted. A substantial increase in non-China sales is great. High levels of employee engagement satisfaction. Mine life maintained at target production rate and quality. So while we're producing at the very healthy clip of 170 odd million tonnes and increasing quality and grade, we're not losing mine life. Our mine life continues to extend. And of course, increasing returns to shareholders. We give a percentage of our returns to, or net profit after tax, to our shareholders, and that fluctuates, as does the ride, of course, with those dividends. So these actions continue progress towards becoming our long-term objective, the world's safest, lowest cost, most profitable mining company, with a really strong platform for future growth. Are there any questions on this resolution? Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, I'll put the resolution to a vote. Please complete your vote now. Thank you. Now, the re-election of Dr. Jean Bader-Schneider. Jean is just a tireless worker, someone who was a captain of industry of one of the largest companies in the world with a order supply book which she personally managed, just a little bit less than the US military in ExxonMobil. So she's a highly regarded leader in business and civil society, brings 35 years, as she mentioned. She started when she was 2. I'm not sure if that's right, Jean. Experience in procurement, strategic sourcing and supply chain management, and has a really deep understanding of high-risk operations and locations and complex partnerships. And that's where we're finding ourselves, where we stick to our own standards, we stick to our own ethics, but we're happy to bring those into other parts of the world where sometimes those ethical standards are quite new. She retired from ExxonMobil in 2013 as Vice President of all global procurement, and during this 30-year career she was responsible for operations all over the world, including Africa, South America, and the Middle East and Asia. Past member of the Board of Directors of the Institute of Supply Management and the Executive Board of the National Minority Supplier Development Council, Dr. Bader-Schneider served on the boards of the Centre of Advanced Purchasing Studies and Procurement and the Procurement Council, and both the Conference Board and the Corporate Executive Board of ExxonMobil. So, very talented young lady. In February 2011, she is presidential appointee to the US Department of Commerce and the National Advisory Council of Minority Business Enterprises. That was the former president, I think, just checking. She holds a master's degree from the University of Michigan and a PhD from Cornell University. So Jean has spoken. I would certainly recommend that we reappoint Jean. Are there any questions on this resolution? I've got to have a bit of an argument. Okay. There are no questions. Please complete your vote now, and we'll move to the election of Dr. Chow Shi-Kwang. So, Dr. Chow is currently the chairman of Hunan Violin Iron and Steel Group Company Limited. He's appointed to the non-executive director position on the 18th of January this year to replace Mr. Chow Hui-Kun, who did a really great job as a representative of one of our very major customers. Dr. Chow himself brings extensive experience, technology, steel management, along with very deep background in international cooperation, so well suited for our board. He joined Violin Shengtan Steel in 1997 and worked in roles which includes the Director of Research, Director of Development. Before being appointed as Chairman of Violin, he holds a PhD in Science as a Senior Engineer Research Fellow. So, Dr. Chow, I'm very grateful that you have nominated, and I'd like any questions from the floor on this resolution. Thank you. No further questions. We'll ask you to complete your voting form. Election of Lord Sebastian Coe. I'd like to give him a lot of cheek, but I'll let him off. This is the formal part of the meeting. Non-executive director of the company joined us on the 25th of February. Lord Coe is currently a senior advisor with Morgan Stanley & Co. International and a non-executive director of the Vitality Group of health and life insurance companies. In 2017, he became Chancellor of the Loughborough University, having previously served as Pro-Chancellor of that university. He's based in the UK. Lord Coe is Executive Chairman of CSM Sport and Entertainment. Within the Chime Communications Group, he's elected President of the International Association of Athletics Federations in 2015, where he's driving very necessary significant governance reforms throughout that global organisation with its 240 member federations around the world. Lord Coe served as the Chairman of the British Olympic Association and was Chairman of the Organising Committee for the London 2012 Olympic Games, said to be the world's best ever games. I want to remind Lord Coe that he came second there. The first best ever games was Australia in Sydney. He was member of the British athletics team in 1980 and 1984, as he's mentioned. We didn't mention his gold and silver medals. Lord Coe, as he's mentioned, was a member of the House of Parliament, Minister, Private Secretary to the leader, William Hague, and he was appointed to the House of Lords again in year 2000. Previously a founding director of this company, as he also mentioned, in 2003 to 2004. We're very sad to lose him at that time because we knew that his contacts, his skill base, his ability to open any door in the world would be incredibly valuable for the huge financing challenges that tiny little company had in front of us. Lord Coe, the challenges are just as immense now, and you're just as welcome. So, are there any questions on this resolution to appoint Seb? Thank you. Please complete your votes now. To refresh the performance rights plan is your resolution 5. Fortescue has a performance rights plan, was last approved by shareholders at the company's 2015 AGM. Approval of the performance rights is required this year to ensure that securities to be granted under the plan would not be counted in the company's 15% annual limit. Accordingly, this resolution seeks to reapprove that performance rights plan, and details are on your screen. Are there any questions? Thank you. Please complete your card now. Participation in the Fortescue Metals Group Limited performance rights by Elizabeth Gaines. I propose for Elizabeth that she participates in this performance rights plan. Ladies and gentlemen, that would be pretty logical. You need to vote on it though. Details are on your screen. I'd like to make some introductory comments on behalf of the board in relation to Elizabeth. As Chief Executive, obviously started as with some trainer wheels for such a large company, such a dynamic company, and has adjusted into this highly collaborative role, this new leadership theme of a core leadership team with all the enthusiasm and talent I could hope for. We're increasing our own communication. I think Elizabeth, like Nev, will become just a lifelong friend and a fantastic chief executive. Ladies and gentlemen, this plan, as you know, was approved in 2015, and approval is being sought here to issue incentives to Elizabeth in her capacity as the Executive Director and Chief Executive, part of her remuneration over the next 3 financial years. The details of the maximum number of performance rights that Elizabeth can earn in that period and the relevant vesting conditions are provided in the notice of meeting of this year's annual report. Executive incentives, as I mentioned, are an important part of the at-risk remuneration, which aligns our executives with our shareholders and delivers the performance this company enjoys. Are there any questions on this resolution? Okay, please fill out your votes now. A closing poll. If you could kindly lodge your voting cards in the ballot boxes circulating the room, or lodge your vote on your device. Have all persons who intend to vote now voted? Okay. Appears that the votes have been collected. Ladies and gentlemen, I declare the poll closed. And subject to the finalisation of the poll, the results will be announced on the ASX later today. Ladies and gentlemen, valued shareholders, dearest family, Marie and Don and Jude and Dave and Vivian, all my core leadership team, every executive, every operator, every manager, these absolute legends, Aboriginal leaders. We're growing our Aboriginal leadership percentages each year, which I'm just delighted about. It is one thing to employ Indigenous Australians. We want to get Indigenous Australians as leaders into this company and provide the training to make that happen. That's our policy, ladies and gentlemen, to give people a hand up, not a handout. And I'm really delighted to say that on this 15th birthday, we have celebrated these milestones. We'll be cutting a cake to share with you all to celebrate the last 15 years. And I would be delighted to share some of that with you with a cup of tea after this meeting. Thank you very much. The meeting is closed.